My friends.
Okay. Yes.
I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and I was mentioning this. They said, like, everybody donate to Joe Biden, and I responded with, I will never vote for someone from the Obama administration. You fool me once, fool me twice, yada yada yada. But pro-war, so no dice. And I ultimately, there was some conversation about, will they swap out Joe Biden with somebody else? At this point, I don't think so. I think it's Biden-Harris. We're in it for the long haul. Kamala Harris is clearly the front runner. The ticket's inverted. It's a silly game they're playing.
Yeah.
But, maybe before this happened, it was like maybe Cuomo. And I ultimately said, at this point, I'm likely going to be voting for Trump. And my friend was like not happy with it. Like, I trust you. I've known you. And I assume you've researched this. And I said, listen, man, in California, they voted to repeal civil rights law. Right. I understand if you're a white liberal who grew up in a wealthy suburb or middle class suburb, you don't have those stories in your life from your family about what it means to have accomplished civil rights. I remember that photo of, you've seen the photo of Bernie Sanders being arrested during the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
It's a famous photo and everyone cheers for Bernie for that. The only problem is these people are trying to walk the clock, turn the clock back. They don't support Bernie's ideas from when he fought for this.
Yep.
That meant a lot to me when I saw that photo of Bernie. I'm like, man, here's a guy who actually fought for civil rights.
But okay, so this kind of gets me too, because if you care about your friend and you know that your friend is, for example, mixed race and has a history of growing up in a mixed race household, wouldn't you be like, you know what, I'm going to put myself in your shoes and try to understand where you're coming from and be like, maybe you're right.
Well,
maybe
my friend
I should
did.
Look into this. This is crazy. Good. That's great. That's good to hear.
That's what I'm saying. Like, these are people I've known my whole life, and they literally said, I trust that you've done your research and you know what you're talking about, but, wow. And then we had some, minor private conversation and complete disagreement. But I just said, do you know what it's like when you have a Democratic base in this country that has adopted a cult-like ideology based on literal racism? What it means to my family and like what we see when they literally voted to do this in California. I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, there are people I've known who, I want to be vague enough about it, but people in my extended family who were immediately just like, they immediately saw that and they went, it's Trump, it is.
Trump it is
like,
then.
we've lived through this.
Yeah, not
we've
again.
We've lived through it. Nope, sorry. And I think when it's really easy for these leftists to say things like, we're going to do affirmative action and it's going to be good for everybody. Yes, there are some races that are probably going, it's good for me. If you're black in this country, they're telling you they'll benefit you. They'll give you more access if you're Latino. If you're white or Asian, however, they're saying the opposite. But more importantly, what if you're a mix?
Yeah, the smallest minority, for example.
And all of a sudden now, everything they're proposing is like, you go to the gutter.
Right, no matter what.
Because, especially if you come from a family like mine. Which brings me to actual good news.
Yeah.
Good news, everybody.
Yes.
Yale illegally discriminates against white and Asian students, Justice Department says. Boom. Yale University's undergraduate admission process illegally discriminates against white and Asian students. A 2-year investigation into the Ivy League school found that race is the determinative factor in hundreds of admissions each year in violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The DOJ said, I'm clapping. A Yale spokeswoman responded, "We are proud of Yale's admission practices, and we will not change them on the basis of such a meritless, hasty accusation." She's proud of being racist.
2-year investigation is not a hasty accusation.
When did Bill Barr come into play?
Oh, a year and a half ago?
Was this
years ago?
I don't care. This is the DOJ, and he's running the DOJ, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I like Bill Barr.
Yep.
Look, man, I think affirmative action is it's like a candy. It's bait. We're gonna do these things for you. I'll tell you what. Unit I see from several polls over the past year, Trump really is doing well among African Americans.
Yeah, that's been consistent.
Yeah, it has been. And there's polls from like Emerson, which found 30 or so percent. Shocking numbers. I think like Rasmussen has found shocking numbers consistently. And Rasmussen nailed it for the popular vote in 2016. They could be wrong, but could they be this wrong this often? Maybe. To be fair, maybe. But there's a big difference between polling non-college educated white people, which they can't do, and polling, African Americans in this country.
Right.
I feel like this probably real. I mean, I'm seeing these viral tweets where they're like, Trump is going to get an historic.
They're just assuming you'll drop the H a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, an historic percentage of the black community to vote for him.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've seen posts. Everybody wants to tell you that it's true or it's not true. I don't know. What I will tell you is it certainly seems like the Democrats are operating as though it's true.
Yep.
The panic, the every big brand endorsing Black Lives Matter and pushing these things.
All the racial components. I seriously think that the focus on race right now is because of the fact that Trump's doing well with them. And I'm just reminded of the I forget what percent it was. Do you remember what the black unemployment was at before coronavirus?
No, but it was like historically low.
Incredibly low. It was the lowest it had been in, I think, 50 years. And I remember being like, how is the left going to respond to this? And apparently it's by pulling out all the stops and burning
down cities,
burning everything down and just destroying the economy.
We've seen the polls from Gallup, and it like they're behind every step of the way. But I wonder if the whole intersectionality bit that they're embracing is because they think it will be popular among minority groups to act like right. I mean, especially if you're Asian. Surprisingly, I've seen polls showing that while Donald Trump is doing tremendously well among the black community and the Latino community, not like he's not beating the Democrats.
Right.
Still, the majority's
way better than Republicans, right? So historically have done.
Yes, yeah. Right. But Asians still like Democrats. Yeah, interestingly. And I found that interesting. There's a couple other things, like maybe it's because they're lumping Asians with every other race on these polls when they put other.
Yeah.
Thanks,
guys. Jeez.
That you can't get an accurate portrayal of it. But it seems like, their play isn't going to work. I tell you what, man, you've got, I think on average, people want to know the path of success. And if you give someone a safe, clear, and path of success, they take it.
Right.
And when you back them into a corner and give them no options, they do what they have to do to survive. And I think these Democrat-run cities are collapsing. They've become chaotic, and it is hurting marginalized groups more than ever.
100%. Yeah.
Let me tell you. I told you my story about the T-shirts when I was younger. I think I may have mentioned it on the store on the show before.
No, this doesn't sound familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, tell me.
Let me tell you a story, and then I want to show you some racism from the mainstream media. But I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
Very, very mixed. There was this black dude who was mocking the gangbangers and other people like I knew who were selling drugs. And he basically said, you can sell T-shirts, man, and make more money, and you don't go to jail. So why would you sling dope? That's the stupidest thing ever. And like we were hanging out at a park, and people asked him like, how do you sell T-shirts? Like, you mean like on the highway? And he's like, listen. Go find a venue, right? You got these cafes, you got these venues. They have these bands. These bands will play, and they got no merch. So you look at who's about to play. You call them up and say, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make T-shirts, and I'm gonna bring them, and I'm gonna give you 20% of everything I sell. And the band say, okay. And he's like, I tell you what I do. He's like, I put in a couple $100. I get a bunch of like not even the best shirts, screen printed. I bring them to the venue. I work 1 day a week. I make like $2,000 a week.
What?
And everybody was like, whoa, these people on the south side were told like, you got to join a gang. You got to sell drugs. This is how you make money. Nobody wants to work at McDonald's. And this guy was like, T-shirts, bro.
That is fantastic.
They just needed someone to tell them how to do it. Trump is doing that.
Yeah, man.
Trump is saying, here's a job. Here's a factory. This is for you. This is for your community. It's going to help you succeed. And people are saying, thank you. I wanted this.
Okay, so that must be why his approval rating is so high, because people want to feel like talking about the news being so bad all the time.
And before someone clips it, I mean literally all races. There are more poor white people in this country, and they're being given a chance and an opportunity the same.
Right.
The opioid crisis is predominantly affecting, I think, white people.
It is white people.
And so I think why we're seeing such support from Latinos and from this is interesting. Trump's losing support among white people, and it's probably because they're far left intersectionalists.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, minorities are like, I like being, like I'm like they're regular, like this country, you'll find, this is why I can't stand racism. Regular people. Mm-hmm. We all tend to want the same things.
Yeah.
We want to, work a good day's work, earn our keep.
Feed your kids.
Feed your kids.
That's it. That's what you want.
Feel accomplished.
Exactly.
I did this. I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think I think Trump helped create that. COVID is destroying that.
I think people of every race across the spectrum, they want to feel a sense of hope. And I really think that is something that Donald Trump has done really well with. For all his other shortcomings, I have some issues with him. Like I said, I don't really like what he's done with the deficit. But again, I think that is just stamp collecting, like Tim says. If you can give people that sense that there is something to be hopeful about, that's amazing. Like, that is actually caring about what American people want. That's significant.
I think about surviving versus succeeding.
Yeah.
And I think people don't want to just survive. They want to succeed. In order to succeed, you have to be shown a path, a light at the end of the tunnel. When people lose hope, then they're just surviving. And survival can be dangerous. It can be crime. And poverty breeds crime.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not always that these criminals are just evil who want to steal things. I know AOC got dragged a lot for ignorantly suggesting that murder was overbred. It wasn't.
Well,
but to be fair, if I try to actually fix her statement, petty crime is actually way down. So she was wrong. Mm-hmm. Murder is way up. She was wrong. But there is a lot of crime based on survival.
Yeah.
But if you can give someone a job at a, say, meat processing plant, when Trump had federal law enforcement arrest non-citizen workers, I'm being diplomatic. I understand. I know. And these people got deported. We saw a bunch of people,
the town people,
locals,
the Americans,
immediately took the job, and it was people of all races. And they were asked about it, and they said this pays better than McDonald's.
Yeah.
So why were they bringing in non-citizen labor to do the job? It makes you wonder. Well, Trump, it was part of what he was doing that opened up these jobs to people who really just wanted an honest, good day's work, and they struggle to find it. So Trump lowers unemployment. This makes it. You know what's crazy is there's a lot of things about Trump, and it's his character that really sets him back. There were things he did early on that he didn't know what he was doing. I think John Bolton is an easy example. He's improved greatly. He's calmed a lot. He's calmed down a bit, and he's still a man of bad moral character. And I know some people are going to be like, "What is that supposed to mean, Tim? Come on, like, what did he cheated on his wife?"
Yeah, so he cheated on his wife, and I don't know. People talk about how he's not like the type of person that you'd have over for dinner, but you could vote for him. And I'm like, fine. I don't need you to be my best friend. I need you to follow through on some of this stuff. And in fact, I think that the concept of giving the American people hope is a mark of character. To me, that marks out a lot of his other shortcomings. That's huge. That's a really big deal. He
loses women because of it. Because of the way he's like, it's funny to see people laugh when he made fun of Rosie O'Donnell, but this is what contributes to him losing a lot of female voters. I'll tell you what, though, Trump tweeted out recently, he's like, the suburban housewife is going to vote for me because she wants safety.
He might be right.
I think so. I think the riots were a big mistake, and Democrats should have denounced it.
Yeah.
Now they want to bring on Kamala as though she's going to be their law and order savior, and it's like, no, I'm sorry. If you've got riots and you respond with a despot, you've created two extremes that I don't want anything to do with. Okay? Peaceful protest is fine. Riots are bad. Kamala locking up people in very crazy and cringy and scary ways, not okay.
Two things can be bad at once, apparently.
Yeah. Like you've just adopted two authoritarian standpoints on this.
Great.
Let me show you this tweet. It says an eye roll.
Oh, boy.
Look at this.
Oh boy.
Julia, how do you pronounce her name?
Ioffe.
Ioffe?
Yeah.
Is that really how you
It's Italian, so I'm just kind of making it up.
Here's the story. Washington Post. Justice Department accuses Yale of illegal bias against white Asian Americans, and she says Bill Barr is fighting hard for white folks.
What?
But what? She completely ignored Asians.
It's like they don't exist, and I don't understand that.
They don't care. That. This is why I said I don't believe that the liberals of this country have a high care marker in their moral foundations.
Yeah.
I care about white people and Asian people. I care about black people and Latino people, and I want everyone to have a laugh and hang out and play music together. I don't get it. You know what, man? I am not conservative, and as much as it's crazy how the left tries to frame it, and I think it really easily comes down to for one, abortion issues. Like, I'm very clearly liberal on so many of these issues that have been historically aligned with Democrats, but the left has just jumped off the cliff. And I say it enough, but it's true. And so now when I see people like, Julia, we know you're ignoring that Asians exist. Like, this was the primary target of these universities because the largest proportion of people who were going there were Asian.
Yeah.
And guess what? The best part is Asian doesn't just mean one race. These people are so racist.
That is incredibly racist.
Okay, let's play a game. Okay, Filipinos are Asian. Mm-hmm. Chinese people are Asian. Mm-hmm. Indians are Asian.
Oh.
Yeah. Malaysians, and I mean, some people would say Pacific Islander for some countries, but no, like it is an eclectic, diverse region that what people don't realize when it comes to how they actually chart whether you're Asian or not, Indian immigrants are one of the highest proportions of people who get into these schools, and they assume it's all like, Asian is in Chinese or something. That's what they see in their head. And you get things like Joe Biden, when he said the average person can't tell the difference between, someone from Korea or China or something. I can't believe. I'm like, have you ever seen these people, dude? Like,
yeah.
What are you talking about?
To me, Joe Biden erasing like the presence of Indian people and Indonesian people and Filipino people is kind of shocking because I would never do that. And they call me racist all day and night, but I actually care about Asian people going to Yale. That's significant.
It really annoys me to like beat the dead horse that we know the Democrats have adopted racism as a strategy to try and win. And I wonder if what they're thinking is racists exist in all races.
Right.
They, I mean, I know this personally from visiting South Korea and from having Korean family. They're really racist.
Yeah.
Like they're not just racist against other Asian countries. Like they're racist against everybody.
It unites us. We're all just kind of racist.
It is changing. So I visited South Korea, and it's really fascinating. I've been told outright by many people who are like probably Gen X or Boomer that if I actually grew up there or tried to live there, I'd be treated like a second-class citizen.
Oh man.
I'm not. I understand. I'm mostly white and all that stuff, but I have family history in Seoul and in some other towns, and they were like, no way. They're like ethno-supremacists. It's changing with the younger generations. So I don't know. I don't want to pretend like I know everything about the country because I've only visited it. I've only been there, I think, one time, and I didn't spend an extended amount of time there. And even, my mom is born and raised in America, but that I've been told this by regional experts, journalists, and when I went there, like they're like super racist, and Japan is too.
I have heard that. Yeah.
And so we end up with this story I highlighted a million times because this, to me, California Proposition 16. Repeal Prop 209 Affirmative Action Amendment was like, I didn't believe it. I didn't know it existed until they'd already voted on it. And then it was Tucker Carlson who brought it up. And he straight up said they voted to repeal civil rights legislation from their constitution in California. And I went, there's no way that's true. There's
gotta
no
be a joke, right?
But I don't think Tucker Carlson's a liar.
He does his homework.
I might disagree. He's had some questionable moments, like when it came to pot legalization. And there was, what was it? He had somebody on, I can't remember. There's been a few moments where I'm like, come on. Yeah. But for the most part, I think he's the best guy on TV. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think even if you disagree with him, he's a general populist. And it's crazy how I say this, and all of a sudden the left screams, and they take a screen grab of it, and they're like, Tim is praising Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson's far right, blah, blah, blah. It's like, he's not.
Not really.
He's not. Did you see that exchange between him and Hannity? When he was like, companies profiting off of a pandemic.
That was so weird to me. I was like, I kind of knew that about Sean Hannity, although I have independently limited my exposure to Sean Hannity as much as possible for obvious reasons. But seeing that exchange between him and Tucker was like, oh my gosh,
Tucker's
dude.
face.
Oh.
Because he's like transferring the show, and Hannity goes, these are Fox News personalities, most of you probably know that. Hannity is like, if a business wants to provide a service and they make good money off it, well, so be it. And then Tucker did the brow thing. Yeah. Where he's like, looks at the camera.
Labrador
and
thing.
The Labrador thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what you can show your friends. California Prop 16, Repeal Proposition 209 Affirmative Action Amendment 2020. They say, a yes vote supports the constitutional amendment to repeal Proposition 209, which says the state cannot discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to persons on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in public employment, public education, and public contracting. To be very, very clear, it's specifically about state level, public employment, education, and contracting. They call it the Affirmative Action Amendment. I believe that is unfair because all it does is strike this language that stops the state from discriminating. However, repealing it would allow them to do affirmative action. Me, I don't care. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what you think it's going to do for you. When I this right here should be more than enough for anybody to be like, how is this literally a thing?
Yeah, that's
Do they listen? We recently had a Supreme Court ruling saying that sex meant gender identity and orientation. Will that impact what this legislation means now?
Better believe it.
So does that mean that in California, if they repeal this, there can be a public job announcement saying, straight white men only?
Of course.
And it would be legal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. I show this to my friends. They don't know it exists. And what's going to happen is come November, it's going to be on the referendum. It's going to be there's going to be a referendum for it. Mm-hmm. And then people are going to be like, oh, affirmative action, and then they're going to boop.
Yep.
And there it is. They say California is a few years away from.
They're a few years ahead of the rest.
Few years
of the
ahead
country.
of us.
Yeah.
Right.
And I found this to be true.
I mean.
Almost all the time, unfortunately.
They banned Uber. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify. And we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.